Okay, I'm going to go ahead. I think we have a quorum so that if we need to move anything to a vote, which we will tonight, we should be okay to do that. So good evening. Welcome to the School Planning Committee meeting of August 12th, 2020. Please note that in accordance with the emergency orders announced by Governor Baker to protect public health during the COVID-19 outbreak, this meeting will not be open to the public for physical attendance, and committee members are joining this meeting via Zoom conferencing. The meeting is being live streamed and cable broadcast by ECAT, and the meeting has been posted and minutes will be recording according to open meeting law requirements. As usual, in order to get through our agenda as efficiently as possible, first I'm going to do a roll call to see who's here for the meeting. And all votes in this evening's meeting will be done by roll call vote. Members of the public are invited to join this meeting. And if they have comments or questions related to items on the agenda, I will take them, assuming that there are not a lot of them. We do have some business that we need to get through this evening to prepare to submit for 60% DD. So I want us to be as efficient as possible with our time. So with that being said, I'm just going to confirm members of the School Planning Committee who are here this evening. Dr. Cabral?
Yes, I'm present.
Thank you. Ken Carlson? Dottie Fulgenetti?
Here.
Dave Field?
Present.
Patrick Helen?
Present.
Caroline O'Neill? She's here, I see it. Connor Reed?
Here.
Billy Sobrai?
Here.
Jamie Stebbins? Dave Twombly?
Here.
Ann Weintraub?
Here.
Jackie Weissman? Nope. And Jane Martin, I'm here. So the first item on our agenda tonight is to approve the minutes from July 15th of 2020. Can I please have a motion and a second for the minutes?
So moved. Dottie?
Helen, second.
Roll call vote. Cabral?
Yes.
Fulgenetti?
Yes.
Helen?
Yes.
O'Neill? Yes. Yeah, I think she's holding up her sign. Reed?
Yes.
Sobrai?
Yes.
Weintraub?
Yes.
And Martin, yes.
You missed me, Jane.
Oh, who did I? Oh, Ken, are you here? Is that Ken?
Yes.
Okay, you're here.
Yeah.
You're here. Okay, great. Thanks, Ken. I did miss you. I apologize.
No problem.
Okay, so with that being said, I'm gonna do my usual and turn it over to Walter, and we're gonna see where we are in terms of cost estimates and make any decisions around value engineering that we need to make tonight. Thanks. Walter, all yours.
All right, it's gonna bounce back and forth between Chad and I think, a little bit. So last Monday, we held our cost estimate reconciliation review. We were pretty close to begin and even closer when we finished, reconciled within 1%. So here you can see the estimate of record PM&C. Just a reminder, the project budget authorized under the MSBA construction cost value was $74,886,581. PM&C's pre-value management value scope exercise today, reconciled estimate was $73,698,676, a delta under of 1.187905. And then PMA's check estimate completed by AMF was $74,195,486, a delta of $691,000. Something we're going to talk about tonight during the value management scope exercise is that these two numbers do not include the use of geopiers under the building. So I know that's it's just a disclaimer to make sure that we know that these didn't include it and that we will talk about it at the next slide or the next couple slides. So Chad, if you want to jump to the next slide. And so we can jump right to the live Excel sheet. And Chad has that up, and I'll kind of let him run through. This is the exact same sheet we used last time, and it carries forward all of the decisions made at schematic design, at design development, and now a recommendation from PMA on the 60% changes.
Thanks, Walter. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. Actually, before we go into the value management, I want to talk a little bit quickly about GeoPeers. So the yellow highlighted items here are the changes on the VM log since the last time we did this at DD Milestone. So GeoPeers, over to the presentation here, if I may. Back in the feasibility study, we took some preliminary borings to get an idea of what the subsurface soil conditions were like on that site. Didn't have survey information at this time, but we knew roughly where the new building would sit. And you can see that called out as B1, B2, and B3, sort of the bullseye marks there. And you'll remember back at that stage of feasibility, the building had a very different shape and bigger footprint. And the footprint has been refined since then and compressed a little bit. There's more two-story space. So those original borings, 2 of them landed outside the building footprint. So more borings were taken at the detailed design phase. I apologize for the graininess of this. But you can see B1, B2, B3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We took 7 more borings in and around the actual building footprint now that we know where the building sits. And we got a better idea of the silt content as well as the location of glacial till that we need those foundations to bear on. You can see the elevation marks here. So up towards the cafeterias, the elevation is 183, and that's when we hit top of till. The finished floor elevation for the building is 186.5. So the closer we are to 186.5, that means the less earth we need to remove and replace with structural fill to have a typical 4-foot frost wall foundation there on. Not really an issue in the core of the building where the cafeteria and the gymnasium are, or even into this wing here on the north. Once we get over to the central admin, we start to see till at an elevation of 177. So it's 9 feet below the top of finished floor. And a little bit even lower once we get to the southeast corner of the building. And what happens at that point is the cost effectiveness sort of tips the scale where it's no longer more cost effective to cut out a few feet of dirt when you're dealing with 10 feet and bring in structural fill than it would be to install GeoPeers, which allow those foundations to sit right on top of the existing soil there, and thereby also reducing the amount of dirt that gets trucked both out and back into the site. So right now, this is all very pretty new information, but we do know that we'll need GeoPeers somewhere to be cost effective. We don't think we'll need it at 100% of the building foundation right now, but we're still going through the analysis to see how much of the foundations make more sense to be on traditional foundations and how much on GeoPeers. We suspect at the southern edge here, where the existing grade is a bit lower and the till is a bit lower, it's going to be more cost effective for GeoPeers, but maybe in the core of the building, we're back to traditional foundations. But that cost exercise really needs a little more time put into it before we can say with certainty where the limits are. In light of this information at the 60% milestone, the structural and geotechnical engineers are recommending that we carry GeoPeers at all the foundation locations, and we further investigate options for cost reductions as we develop the 90% design. For that reason, we have this added onto the VM sheet, item ST01, value of $489,000, which is the delta between GeoPeers and the costs that we were previously carrying for soil export and structural fill import. So that is something that we should insert into the estimates, which still puts us below our established budget. But it begins to sort of impact our ability to make the Columbus Avenue connection improvements. Last time we talked about the options for the Columbus Avenue tie-in, and we had it in phases, right? Everyone remembers this. So phase 1 was to make the roadway connection. That's always been in the project scope. We always had that road there, right? Phase 2 improved the intersection condition up there a little bit. And this is something that is certainly desired and recommended from a traffic engineering standpoint. And last time we discussed this, it seemed that the general consensus was we'd want to at least be able to implement phase 2 as part of this project to make that intersection work a little more seamlessly. Phase 3 improves the parking lot condition over there, and it actually connects the parking lot to the new roadway loop. So this is more of a nice to have. It's something that if we have the money to do it, we would absolutely incorporate it into the project. But we would discuss it here at this milestone on 60% estimates. Back over to the value management sheet. So we've pre-populated this scenario here, and this scenario has us accepting the phase 2 intersection improvements. That puts it into the project scope at 60%. So here it's accepted. And then the phase 3 parking lot connection, we would hold off for now and then reevaluate when we got to the 90%. And that really ties into the geopier discussion, because if we only need geopiers at half the foundation, we can cut that $490,000 number in half. We then are very, very close to being able to afford the phase 3 of the Columbus Avenue connection. Right now, I don't think it's a decision that we could make without cutting other scope from the building. The other items you see on the screen are stuff that we've previously decided not to cut from the building at either SD or DD. So we could certainly reintroduce one of those cuts, but we've already discussed each of them, and none of them were desirable. And I don't know that phase 3 is totally off the table anyways until we do our additional due diligence on the geopier question.
And phase 2 was prioritized, Chad, over phase 3 because of the safety it provides on Columbus Ave.
Right. Yep. So other changes.
And I'm just going to say too, because I know we just discussed this, but phase 2 also includes kind of not just what you've highlighted in was highlighted in kind of orange on that document, but also the area around the flagpole. That would all be part of phase 2. Even though it's not right exactly. Yep.
Just diagrammatical.
Yep. Thank you.
I had a question, Chad.
Sure. Go ahead.
What's the status of the design of phases 2 and 3? Assuming phase 1 is designed as part of the project, does the cost of 2 and 3 include the design component, or will it be designed and ready to go on the shelf?
It's in the estimated numbers here. It includes the design fees and the contingency amount for that scope of work.
Okay.
So I actually just had a discussion with Perkins about this prior to this meeting. And if we were to move forward on phase 2, we think it makes sense to design phase 2 and 3 together.
Mm-hmm.
And they can always be parsed out and they can be bid out as a separate.
So,
but Perkins would need to go back to their engineering team and get proposals for that work, because that's not something that was in their original project scope.
So let's say, looking down the road a little bit, wishful thinking, the bid comes in low. Would we have to go back and design, if we wanted to add 3 in or 2 in, would we have to go back and design that too? Or would it be ready to go at that time?
It would be ready to go at that time. It will already be designed and seamless with the rest of the projects in the phase 1 road improvements. So
Okay.
we could act on that time, or another option when we get to 90%. Our hope is that through either refinements of the foundation or just a reduction of the design and pricing contingency that happens naturally when you get to 90%, but there's opportunity to put it into the base scope at that point. And at that point, what we'd likely do is flip these over to deduct alternates and use them as strictly pricing protection.
Gotcha. Thank you. Excellent.
You're welcome. Any other questions on either Columbus Ave or geopiers? Okay. So under this scenario, Walter went through the numbers, and we were under budget we need to show the MSBA 2 reconciled budgets that have value management exercises incorporated in each of them and are below the total project budget. So if we add in the phase 2 connection, we add in the geopiers, it actually puts us a little bit over our budget on the higher, more conservative budget. We have the opportunity to, some of these we're a little late in the game, but one of them jumped out very quickly to us, and that is eliminating the network switches from the base project scope. So we decided back at schematic design that we would put the network switches in the base project scope. Since then, Perkins Eastman's consultant has provided a strong recommendation that we reconsider that initial intent, because the technology evolves so quickly, and from the time we bid this project to the time those switches go in is almost 2 years. So we'd either be specifying a switch that is 2 years old by the time it's installed, and paying the premium because at time of bid it's the latest and greatest technology, but 2 years later, I mean, everyone's bought a computer and saw how quickly a 2-year-old computer depreciates. So we think that there's maybe some benefit to pulling the network switches out of the base bid and moving them back into the technology budget. And by doing that, it frees up not only enough money to cover the geopiers, the phase 2 improvements, but we can also add in this other request that came in during one of the COVID-19 focus group meetings just recently. And this provides some additional low voltage wiring for pandemic preparedness. So that way areas that otherwise may not have hardwired connections would have hardwired connections available, or wireless connections, so that remote learning becomes much easier to accomplish in the new building. So if we were to add in that additional low voltage wiring that was requested during that meeting, add in the geopiers, add in the phase 2 improvements, and eliminate the network switches from the base project scope, our new estimate lands just $50,000 shy of project budget, so it puts us right on target for where we want to be. So that's how we have this pre-populated right now. We're open to changes, open to discussion, of course. But that is, I think, the recommended course of action from TMA and Perkins' point of view.
We'll have questions or comments.
Yeah, I had just a recap on the geopiers. You're looking at half the building and structural fill on the other half.
We're hoping, so right now in this estimate, we'd be carrying them at the entire building, but we're hoping we could just do them in half. Yep.
If you split it half and half, is there any concern about differential settlement between the geopiers and the structural fill, where the building rests on each type of foundation?
Yeah, so that we had a conference call with structural today, and there's definitely some more studying that needs to be done on stuff like differential settlement before we make that jump, and that's why we're reluctant to say 50% geopiers and 50% foundation at this point, and we're recommending that we safe route carry geopiers throughout until we know for sure that everybody is comfortable from a structural and geotechnical standpoint to make that switch into something that might be more cost effective.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Thank you.
Welcome.
Chad, this is David Twombly. Can you explain to me, like, I don't really remember, but what was the conversation around the network switches? Like, why were we looking to put those in? Just to kind of refresh my memory. I don't know if you remember, but trying to figure out why we could do away with it now when before we wanted it. I'm just trying to.
Oh, we're not doing away with it. Sorry.
Yep, they would still be in the project. They'd be shifted to the technology budget. So at the time, we actually had a little bit of room in the construction budget, and we were trying to reconcile with the target budget. And it was presented as one of the ads that kicked us up to what our target budget was, and at the same time relieve some of the pressure on the technology budget. So it does put a little bit of pressure back on the technology budget, but our experience has been that the technology budgets are actually fine. It's the furniture budget that it's a little bit of help. And Walter, did we carry 2,400 a square foot? This project,
2,400 a student, you mean?
Yeah, sorry.
I believe so. I'd have to go back and check, but that is what the MSBA reimbursed. We might have carried a little bit. No, we carried actually a little bit additional, Chad, for pre-K.
Right.
And yeah, we did.
We did.
Yep. Let me go. I'll pull it up while you guys keep talking.
So this just means that we might have, I don't want to say less in that technology budget, but it kind of might need to shift what we go ahead and purchase from that technology budget. But it doesn't mean that we're cutting anything, because we really hadn't made any decisions yet about kind of what items we would be purchasing. Is that correct?
Yep, we had just shifted
Yes.
it into the electrical filed sub bid as opposed to purchasing it via.
Now we're shifting it back out. Yeah.
Yep.
And we did carry $276,000 extra in the FF&E and IT budgets beyond what the MSBA reimburses and recommends. So we're covered on that end with a little bit of contingency on that side too.
Yep.
And there are many schools are able to work within the MSBA budgets in order to fully equip with new furnishings, new equipment. Generally, what we find the item that pushes them over those budgets are when we get into new computers for all the students and all the staff, or kind of commingle items that are maybe typically an operating expense and push them into that capital expenditure of the project. That's really what stresses those budgets. But otherwise, there's no concerns on our end being able to fully equip the building.
Other questions or comments? And if we don't need to, I guess my next is, are we ready to move towards a vote on what's being recommended? And I can't remember, do we need to vote line item by line item, or do we just vote the total? That, you know, I make a motion that we accept the GeoPeer estimate, that we accept the Phase 2 Columbus Ave estimate, and that we remove the technology, the network switches back out of the construction budget, back over to the technology budget. Sorry. Do you need it item by item?
I don't think so. I think we could just do as presented at the 8/12 meeting as recommended.
Is there anything else? Is there anything else that we need to look at in this value engineering process?
It gets us to target. The other options we've already discussed as this group and did not have a desire to take them. And I think where we have the network switches jumping out as a very obvious, easy item to target, I'm comfortable that there's not a better option elsewhere on that list.
Leisha, are you comfortable with moving the switches out over back into the technology?
Yes,
Okay. Okay, so I am, without seeing that nobody else seems to have questions or comments and seems pretty comfortable, I'm going to ask for a motion that we accept the value management recommendations as have been presented tonight, so that we can move forward and with our 60% DD submission. Can I have a motion?
Caroline,
moved.
Neil. Oh, okay, sorry.
Someone?
Second.
Who's first? Who? Caroline and Dottie?
Dot
Was that?
first, I'm second.
Okay.
Caroline.
Okay, I'm just gonna run down my list real quick here. So Cabral, Carlson,
Yes.
Fulgenetti,
Yes.
Helen,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Soberai.
Yes.
I don't think Jamie Stebbins ever joined us, did he? I don't believe so. Weintraub,
Yes.
Wiseman, I think Jackie's here now. Wiseman,
Yes.
okay, thanks, Jackie. Martin, yes. So that's checked off the list. So I assume that with that, you are now authorized. We've just authorized you to go ahead and submit. Do you need a separate vote for that? I guess that's my question. We authorized the value management exercise. Do you need a separate vote for submission?
We have, in the past, we've had a separate vote.
Vote. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and ask for a motion to authorize the submission of the 60% design package to the Massachusetts School Building Authority. Can I have a motion?
Carlson, so moved.
Can I have a second?
We're all second.
Cabral, I'm going to do roll call. Cabral,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Fulgenetti,
Yes.
Helen,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Soberai,
Yes.
Weintraub,
Yes.
Wiseman,
Yes.
Martin, yes. Thanks. We're good.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Walter, you want to run through the schedule update?
Yeah, there's not really anything on the schedule summary that has changed. We're still going to be working through design through November, and then kind of October and through February, we're going to be doing the pre-qual and the bid, and then heading towards construction in that late February, early March timeframe, with the building coming first, and then demo and abatement and fields coming after that. That's really it. Just
Walter,
yep.
quick one. When we do the pre-qual, which I think we're going to be ramping up to do in the near future, we
Yep.
should have a member. We should have a couple of members from the building committee on that group.
Agreed. That would probably be a good item for our September building committee meeting.
Can you explain a little bit about what that is? I'm not sure what you're, unless everybody else knows what you're talking about.
No, that's okay. I can explain it a little bit. I think some people might have a clue, but the filed subbid and general contractors require a pre-qualification prior to allowing them to actually bid on the job. So we'll be doing a pre-qualification process for both, for 16 filed subbids, and then for the general contractors as well. It is a comprehensive package. You review a lot of check off on the package, as well as calling references and scoring. And typically it is the OPM team, the design team, and then a member from the, is it usually one or two members from the building committee, Chad and Dan? Two?
Typically two.
And
Yep,
when
typically two.
when
Two.
is that happening? I'm sorry.
I believe it's October, November.
Thank
you.
Would be the pre-qualification.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, we'll post the request for quals right after the 90% submissions. We'll use that estimate value when we publish it to the subcontractors.
Okay.
They're out in the streets for 3-4 weeks, and then from there we start the process. But yeah, end of November, early December is when it'll actually start.
Okay.
So if anyone would like to partake in that, definitely, I believe it is actually part Massachusetts law that someone does need to be named to that pre-qual committee, and we need to publicize that. So
Does it need to be a voting member of the committee?
that I don't know. I don't think so.
No, I think it's just a representative from the district.
Yep.
Yep. So it can even be
It doesn't have to be
department or construction maintenance facilities. Yeah, really. It doesn't matter.
Generally you find somebody who has the most experience or who has experience with the construction process and may have 149 experience from other projects you've done in town.
Yep.
Because they'll know some of these guys that are going to be submitting.
Mhm.
I've done that before, but I'm curious as to the time commitment. I've done it on some wastewater plants. I know the process, but I'd just be curious about what tasks that, what I have to do and what the time commitment would be. That's all.
Yeah, that's
I can
probably
imagine. Where do you think we're going to get 60 to 70 submissions for this?
probably it.
I think. Yeah. So I would guess that, that in and of itself, we usually break them up into chunks too. Like we don't expect someone to go through all 60 or 70. But usually it takes me like maybe 3 days to do it, like 24 hours or so to go through what I got to go through. That's without having people needing callbacks. And That's hoping you get the first time you call them and get them on the phone.
Can we have the whole committee do it and each get 2?
No.
I like that.
Hey,
So
Defer to
you'll
your
put this,
Let's
expertise.
try.
I know. So you'll put this on a September agenda and we can probably talk about it at a little bit more detail then. Is that what you're?
Yep.
Yeah, it may even be an October agenda, or late September, early October.
Yeah, maybe we'll talk a little bit more about the process in September, and then October we can nominate who the individuals will be.
Yep. Absolutely. So yeah, just kind of, we have the same process going forward at the 90% submittal. We're just going to be adding in that prequal right around that time. You know, we're going to be going through some more focus groups, probably not as many, and Dan will be Perkins Eastman will be putting together the 90% work plan, same as we have had for the 60. We have a little bit of time. We're going to submit on Friday to the MSBA, and then they have a 3-week turnaround time, I believe, and that for their comments, and then we will have a 2-week time frame. So about 5 weeks of what we'll be working through. But I would expect Dan would have. When do you think you'll have a 90% work plan? We should probably get that going very quickly here.
Yeah, I'm honestly, I don't think we're going into a real phase where we're detailing the building at this point. So there's going to be very sporadic meetings, if any.
Okay.
I don't think there's going to be very much. Like, we have pretty much everything we need from everybody to.
Yeah, they did a really good job already.
Yeah, everyone's done a great job. There's no, we have enough information to get us to the next stage. I think there might be one more security meeting.
Yep.
That might need to happen, but there's not going to be like it was before where we had 16, 17 meetings in a row. I think it's going to be a lot of this time's going to be spent detailing and getting into the nuts and bolts.
That's great. So we'll get that out, and it'll include these dates and the committee meetings for those. Quick snapshot of the budget. We're right on track where I apologize, Chad. I did not update those. That is my up top. I did not. Ah, crap. 1 second. Said I was going to do it. Budget.
I have it open.
You got it loaded already?
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
No, that needs some attention. So
3.5 million billed to date.
Yep.
With an estimated reimbursement of.
Something going on that one.
Yep.
Would you just say that again, Walter? So what have we billed to date and what have we been reimbursed? Is it
3,548,000 billed to date and 1.948 million estimated reimbursement.
okay? Okay.
It's the percent sign, Chad, right there on the left in G.
Right.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Sorry, I spent too much time in that file.
Questions or comments on any of these numbers from anybody? Okay.
So I think that's really everything PMA has.
Okay.
And we can, Dan, I believe Dan has an item for new business, and then we can kind of turn
I do.
Yes.
I do. I do need to, we're at the point where I do need some guidance on the mural that's in Parkview. How much of that mural do we want to salvage? And it doesn't have to go into the new building. How much of this do you want and where do you want it to go? And is it 10 feet, 15 feet? Like, I just need to know how much of it so that we can actually get it on the drawings and tell us.
Or do you just need an amount or do you need specific parts?
It would be good to have a specific idea of what we want out of that thing. I have pictures of the entire thing, so I know exactly what it is. So if it's, and I have the original design. So if you tell me what you want, I know how to, I can parse it out from there.
Okay.
But if we could give that a little bit of thought and let me know if there's anything. If
Yep.
there's nothing, then there's nothing. But if there's something, then just let me know. so I
And can you remind us of the cost to do so? Do we have to give you the information about what we're looking at and you're going to give us a cost? Or, I mean, I think we had quite a bit of conversation about this, and I almost need to go back and look at my notes because I don't recall unless somebody else does.
We're carrying a number in the budget, Dan.
Okay.
We are, because we have it, it's on the drawings right now. We talked about, before we had talked, there was a piece of it that everyone felt was probably something we should save, which is the one teacher under the tree.
Yeah.
So we carried in the estimate and carried on our drawings, saving a 15-foot by 8-foot section, which is basically that piece.
Okay.
But if there's more of it or less of it, or,
Yeah.
you know, and if that's it, then then we're good and we'll just.
Right.
we'll
And
put that on
even,
the drawings that way.
and that's even, I mean, that doesn't commit us to putting it in the new building, because I know
No.
we had a lot of conversation about the fact that, you know, that we recognize the sentimentality of that particular thing, you know, for students and staff from Parkview, but we also recognize the fact that, you know, there are other important components from the other schools that folks may feel sentimental about, and we wanted to be careful about moving stuff over. Did I capture
Dan,
that?
do you recall?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Do you recall what was carried for that item?
Dollars or
That-
size?
Doll-
I don't know how much money we carried for it. I'd have to kind of, I'm sure it's somewhere buried in there because it is specifically on the drawings. to take this
Search mural, Chad.
It's on its
out of this. It's in there.
paid $5,000 for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the only thing that,
Yeah.
and again, maybe this is just a quick conversation that Dr. Cabral and I, and maybe even Ann or, you know, Tom Higgins might want to have. I want to make sure that we're being equitable and fair, and if we're thinking about doing something that, you know, represents the history, it can't just be the history of Parkview. It has to, you know, it needs to be a much bigger picture. Ann, am I capturing kind of, do you recall that conversation? Because it was almost probably a year ago now that we had it.
Yes, I remember it the same way.
Okay. Yep.
And, you know, understand the sentimentality of that particular section that Dan's referring to.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if we're carrying the cost to preserve that, that makes sense. I think we'd have to have a discussion about where is it going.
Right.
I don't know that it's necessarily going to end up in the new building,
Right.
but could it be preserved
Right.
somewhere else?
Right.
Right.
Okay.
And I didn't
Yeah,
carry,
Ann and
that
I-
putting it in the building.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Ann and I
Go
had
ahead, Liz.
actually planned on meeting with the staff at Parkview to fill them in about all of this, and then we had the school closure, so that's what kind of put us off. That's why I was wondering about the cost to remove that item, because perhaps that's a cost that the Parkview staff and or the PTO would be interested in. You know, they're the ones that actually put the mural up. They may be interested in preserving a section of it, and it wouldn't be part of the project per se. So we just have to confirm that that's even what their intention is. But we're sidelined because of the school closure. So I would need to talk to the principal and somehow figure out how we could make that decision. But I think we'll be.
Any other questions or comments from anybody this evening? Is that all you had for new business? I'm sorry, Walter, is that all there was?
I don't think Chad or I had anything. I think that
Okay.
was just Dan.
Okay. Do we need to talk about our next meeting?
I think so. I don't think we have anything on the schedule right now.
Okay. So when are you thinking?
5 weeks. Well, do we want to meet in between the comments, or do we want to wait until we've got through all the comments?
I would meet when we get the comments back from MSBA.
So that would be September 18th. Is that 5 weeks when they would be due?
5 weeks when our responses are due back, but the MSBA has been running a bit behind on their review, so I think that's probably a safe date. So September 16th would be.
Yep, sorry, 16th.
And is 5 o'clock still working for folks? Because I'd like to keep it at 5 o'clock if we could. Does that still work for everybody? Great.
Jane, it's Jamie as I jump in here at 5:40. No, actually 5:30 would be better, but I may be in the minority.
Okay. I'll do some checking offline, Jamie, and if we can push it back, if it doesn't cause problems, we'd push it back to 5:30.
And I apologize for my tardiness.
That's okay. That's okay. Any other questions or comments before I ask? So I'm going to ask people to tentatively hold September 16th, which is a Wednesday. And
Jane,
yep, sorry.
can I just make a comment that as it stands, that's the night before school is supposed to start on the 17th.
Oh, it is. Yes, it is.
That might be a little hard for,
You're
it
right.
will be for me. I don't know if Felicia or, if it's not crucial that we meet on that Wednesday, could we push it I may not be able to be there.
Could we push it a week, guys? If we went to the 23rd, is that a problem?
Doesn't matter.
That should be fine on our end.
Should be fine.
Yeah, the
Sure.
design review comments that come back at this point are all in PMA. It's more
Okay.
in the district response.
So I'm going to change the September 16th to September 23rd.
Thank you.
And no, thank you for, I hadn't even, no kids in the schools anymore. I'm not paying attention. Okay, so with that, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
Ellen, so moved.
O'Neill, second.
Great. Thanks. And thanks to PMA for being so prepared for this. This was a great, quick, all what I would consider good news. So,
Are we going to vote?
yes, we are. Sorry, I got to find my list. I'm looking for my list because I put it away. Here I go. Okay.
We're all, yeah.
Thank you. Carlson? Carlson?
Maybe he
Yeah.
left.
Okay, no, he's there. Fulgenetti?
Sorry.
Yes.
Helen?
Yes.
O'Neill?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
Sobri?
Yes.
Stebbins?
Yes.
Weintraub?
Yes.
Wiseman?
Yes.
Martin, yes. Thank you so much, everybody, and we'll see you in 6 weeks, I guess. Thanks.
Hey, everyone, take care.
Thank you.
Have a good week.